Welcome to Veil of the Unknown. Today, forget the usual ghosts, the standard demonic possession tales. We're diving into something, well, much harder to pin down.
Something that seems to play by different rules entirely.
Exactly, something that seems to bend reality itself. We're talking about the Whispering Veil.
And our mission today, really, is to dig into the very first documented cases. Look at those early sightings, the witness accounts. Try to piece together what was going on.
Yeah, try to get a handle on its origins, at least in terms of modern records. And for you listening, if you're drawn to those unexplained corners of reality, this is definitely for you.
It's interesting, too, this isn't entirely new, is it? There are whispers of similar things throughout history.
Right, different names pop up across cultures. Things like the Silver Mist or the Mirror's Edge.
And the veil itself, of course, it suggests people have encountered something like this for a long time.
But the clearer, more documented cases really seem to start emerging, mid-20th century?
That's right. Often in those places that already feel a bit off. Abandoned towns, remote forests, that kind of thing.
Okay, so let's jump into the first really solid account we have, 1968, Black Hollow Forest.
Even the name has a ring to it, doesn't it? And it already had this reputation, for people going missing.
So this hiker, Margaret Hensley, what makes her story the starting point for so many researchers?
What's the detail, I think, and the complexity of her reaction. She sees this shimmering curtain, is how she put it.
In a moonlit clearing?
Yes. Translucent, but she couldn't see what was behind it. It just obscured everything.
And her feeling, not just fear.
That's the strange part. She described this overwhelming sense of dread, like pure terror, but also
fascination.
Exactly. A powerful pull, a curiosity mixed right in with the fear.
It's a weird combination we see sometimes with the unexplained, isn't it?
It really is, that push and pull.
Yeah.
And then the whispers started. Faint at first, she said. Layered voices, lots of them. But in languages she didn't recognize at all.
But they felt familiar somehow, like from a dream. That's uncanny.
Deeply uncanny. It suggests maybe it wasn't hitting the language part of her brain, but something deeper, like triggering a feeling of recognition without actual understanding.
And she interacted with it, physically.
She reached out her hand,
Yeah.
said it passed through the shimmering part, but then she felt something.
What?
Cold and viscous.
Yeah.
She described it like touching cold gelatin. It wasn't just light or air.
Wow. Okay, so it had some kind of substance or maybe interacted with substance?
It seems like it. And then there were the symbols.
Right, the glyphs. Not just the veil itself, but physical marks left behind.
Etched into tree trunks nearby. Glyphs, she said, were unlike any alphabet, any writing she'd ever seen.
So visual phenomenon, auditory, tactile, and leaving physical traces. That's a lot.
It is. Understandably, she panicked. She just fled, left her pack, everything.
Her account was dismissed initially, I gather.
Pretty much, yeah. Just the scared hiker story. But later events, other reports from that same area, started to make people look again.
So what did those later reports show in the next decade or so?
More sightings in the Black Hollow Forest area. Hikers, hunters, campers. Similar descriptions, shimmering curtain, unsettling whispers.
But the outcomes weren't always the same?
No, that's a really disturbing part. Some people fled, like Margaret. Others, they just vanished.
Completely.
Completely. Search parties would go in, find maybe an abandoned campsite, but no sign of the person.
And did they find anything else?
Sometimes. More of those same weird symbols carved into trees. That was often the only clue that wasn't normal.
Which brings us to 1975 and a very different kind of encounter, the biology field study.
Right, a group of college students led by Thomas Reed. They were there for, science, studying the ecosystem.
But they found something else. Reed kept a journal, didn't he?
He did. And reading it, especially the entry from their third day deep in the forest, you can really feel the mood shift.
How so?
He writes about this feeling of unease setting in, the air feeling heavy, stagnant, like the woods were just watching.
That atmospheric wrongness again.
Exactly. Then Sarah, one of the students, sees something. A pale light kind of shifting erratically between the trees.
Thomas saw it too.
He did. He confirmed it. Described it just like Margaret Hensley did. A curtain hanging there in midair, rippling slightly, but there was no wind.
A classic veil sighting.
Textbook. And then, of course,
The whispers.
they started softly, he wrote, but got louder. And Sarah felt they were calling her name, specifically hers.
Okay, that personalization is just incredibly chilling. It implies awareness.
It really does. It moves it from just a strange natural phenomenon to something potentially interactive. And Sarah felt drawn to it, wanted to approach it.
But Thomas stopped her.
Yeah, he wrote, he just had this gut feeling of intense danger. He physically pulled her back.
Probably saved her life right there.
Maybe. They spent a very uneasy night, he notes. But the next morning, Sarah was gone.
Gone.
Just vanished from her sleeping bag. He specifically mentions the bag was still warm, she hadn't been gone long, no signs of a struggle,
She
nothing.
evaporated.
Pretty much. They searched extensively, the whole group, found nothing of Sarah.
But they found the symbols.
They did. More of them. Carved into trees all around their campsite. Reed described them as weird, ancient, unnatural.
And his journal.
His last entry is filled with regret about suggesting the trip in the first place. Then it just stops abruptly.
Leaving so many questions. So, looking back at Hensley and this field study, what are the common threads? What should we, or someone listening, really focus on?
Well, the appearance, obviously. This shimmering, translucent curtain. It seems to be more visible under certain conditions, low light, maybe near reflective surfaces. Some accounts mention heightened emotional states, too.
So it might not always be obvious. It could be subtle, something to bear in mind.
Definitely. Then there are the whispers, always described as layered, multiple voices, unknown languages, but often with that personalized touch, like they know you're there.
Which is deeply unsettling.
Absolutely. And finally, the symbols, the glyphs that keep appearing. That suggests something more than just random hallucination, doesn't it? It points towards intelligence, or at least purpose.
So people have obviously tried to explain this. What are the main hypotheses floating around? Not that we're endorsing any, but what are the ideas?
Well, the most common one is probably some kind of portal, a doorway to another dimension, another reality.
But no clue what's on the other side from these accounts.
Not really, no. Just that feeling of something being obscured. Another idea is that it's a sentient entity itself, or maybe a collective consciousness trying to communicate or interact.
We're testing people. That filter idea is kind of creepy.
It is, like it's assessing individuals for some purpose. And then there's the idea it might be some kind of echo or remnant from a lost civilization. A warning, maybe? Or an invitation?
A whole spectrum of possibilities, all pretty unnerving.
And whatever it is, encountering it seems to leave a mark. Survivors, the ones who don't vanish, they're often changed by the experience.
Psychologically, you mean?
Mostly, yeah. A lasting psychological impact. Though some hint at lingering physical sensations too.
Which sounds like what happened with park ranger Emily Carter in a more recent encounter.
Yes, this was on the northern edge of Black Hollow Forest. And again, that initial feeling. She said something just felt fundamentally wrong. The air was thick, hard to breathe.
That visceral warning sign again.
It seems to be almost constant. And then she saw it. The veil. Blocking the path, blocking everything behind it. She described this inability to look away, like it was holding her gaze.
Similar to Hensley's fascination, perhaps.
Very similar.
Yeah.
And the whispers she heard were intense, hundreds at once, she said. Angry tones, sad tones, all mixed together.
But there was one specific voice.
Yes, cutting through the others. A distinct voice, she said, repeating one phrase over and over. You're not ready.
You're not ready. Wow, what does that even mean? Ready for what?
Exactly. It's so specific, so personal, and so cryptic. Is it a gatekeeper? Is it judging? We just don't know.
And her reaction, did she want to approach?
She felt a strong urge to, yes. But overriding that was this powerful, primal instinct to just flee, run.
She listened to that instinct.
She did. Ran back to her truck, got out of there as fast as she could.
But it didn't end there for her, did it?
No. She reported hearing the whispers again sometimes, at night, even when she was safe inside her own home. That lingering effect. It suggests the encounter leaves some kind of residue.
It's a psychological echo. At the very least, it truly gets under your skin.
It really does. So, from Margaret Hensley feeling that dread and fascination back in '68,
The tragic disappearance of Sarah during that 75 study.
and Ranger Carter's chilling warning,
Yeah.
these early cases really lay the groundwork. They paint a consistent, deeply strange picture of the Whispering Veil.
Yeah, the shimmering curtain, the deeply personal whispers, those bizarre symbols. It all points to something coherent, something intentional, maybe. Definitely not just random occurrences.
Something that warrants closer investigation, certainly.
And on that note, wait, hold on. Do you just hear that?
I didn't hear anything.
I thought I heard a voice just now. Really faint, kind of distorted, like static on the line, but words.
Are you sure? Maybe it's just some equipment noise or crosstalk?
No, I'm pretty sure I heard it. It sounded like it said, "You've been chosen."
Chosen. Takes a shaky breath. Okay. Well, Make sure you join us for our next deep dive, Voices in the Static. We'll be focusing much more on the auditory side of the veil, listening to some really chilling recordings. Maybe we can figure out what these whispers are actually trying to say.